Well, hello there. Oops, it's this side. And yeah, the door. I know it's not every time, but every once in a while. Anyway, we're here and we're enjoying being here as we always do. So, um, and it's Sunday for me, so it's time for another Everyday Miracle story. And yeah, I'll catch up on that other one from yesterday that didn't quite happen. Do apologize. University is be a bit intense and so can other things. So I attempt my best to be where I'm meant to be each moment. So that's all we can do. But thought since it's Sunday, we might talk a little bit about a understanding of Scripture in a we all have moments. We've had one that has impacted a lot of people. And we sometimes are sitting going, okay, so what happened? And all I can tell people that are asking is it did, and God has a plan. You know, to understand this, come to two things you can look up and find very easily. One is, you know, God's ways are without being ours. God's thoughts are without being our thoughts. So if his ways and thoughts are different than ours, then he has a plan. We don't know what that plan is. We're not privy to it. Just like in my life, there are things that I require kind of urgently, I think. Yet God will say, I have a plan. Yeah. And there are so many scriptures around that situation of in the fullness of time. Yeah. And sometimes that doesn't fit well with us. As we would have wished the miracle, we would have wished the save, we would have wished something. Yeah. I God brings what was meant for evil and turns it to good. And we sit there in shock because, wow, that that angle of operation I did not see coming. So here we are contemplating, uh, does God have a plan? Yes, he does. There's a plan for every single being that ever was created, and there is a plan to become friends, among other things. There's always all those steps to get there, and that's part of the plan. You know, um, and sometimes that challenges the way we believe things should be. I've been praying for that situation and others as well that people may not know of, that God does. The final thing I would say is if he adorns the lilies, he makes the grass so green, and it only lasts sometimes an afternoon. And how much more does he care for us? And yet we have moments like this that could only be understood. Well, we can't, because our ways are not God's ways, and our thoughts are not God's thoughts. Something to think on. I've had my moments. So let's leave that there. As we move forward, I might want to get a hold of me. Who knows? And I'm going to be working on cards and things. I hear I have 25 subscribers. I looked and yes, I do. And I thank every subscriber for subscribing because it gives me more ability to do more things. Awesome. Looking forward to that. I'm going to do some lives eventually. Live story, yeah. brand new, drop it, people come in, listen, and it will be not public, but it will be for those that came for that because it's designed for them. You'll understand when it happens. And there's some other things that we're going to be doing, as I've said. So anyway, want to get a hold of me? It's Eric at starthealing.me, Eric at starthealing.me, Eric at starthealing.me. And you send me an email and I'll send you a link and you can book an appointment and we can chat. That one's without charge. Let's leave that there. Now, when we're doing this series, it's just single stories that are happening. Things I've seen, things that God puts together in parable form. Sometimes it's just a story that God wishes to weave. But in one way or another, it does come from real life, from real events. God may decide to create the story in a different way as far as the way I would think you would tell it. That's what I mean. So this one's interesting because sometimes a miracle comes the way we don't wish it to. And sometimes a miracle shows up when you didn't want the miracle. Didn't need that. Yeah. And yet those everyday miracles showed up. Yeah. And this one is like that. Uh, so let's begin. Well, this is an interesting story because it's about a lady who's been in a wheelchair for about 12 years. She had a severe accident. Yeah, very unexpected and weird accident, but it happened. So about 12 years ago, something happened and her lower part of her body doesn't respond. And after 12 years, she stopped asking for miracles and for healing and everything. She's just become almost to an understanding of, well, this is how life is now. And this is the way that life will be. And this is the way life will occur. And so she's fine with that now. She's made her peace with God. She's moving on. She does see miracles in her life. You know, there was no way she could afford a chair, yet one was provided in a miraculous fashion. True, bona fide, absolute, can't get done any other way miracle. You know, she had been getting around with a non-powered wheelchair. And what had happened to her had affected the bottom completely gone. The up, well, it got tired quickly. No matter how much physio and stuff she did, she still got tired quickly. So rolling that thing around was difficult. But she required something at the store that was important to what she was doing now for a living from home. So she had to roll down to the store, and she was. When she got to the store, she got her stuff that she required, and she was leaving the store, there was somebody there with one of those dreams for her. It was the van that could, you know, be driven by somebody like her and would be a learning curve, but she was open for it, but the finances weren't there. And out of there rolled a man in a powered wheelchair. And that looked amazing. And that would be awesome. But she already knew that, again, that was outside of her realm completely. She's rolling along, heading back to get the tasks that she had to do to make the income to pay the rent. The world didn't stop, she said. But it had been miracle after miracle, and she'd seen it that day. It was slated to rain 100%. That's usually rain. And it had been, and then it stopped. But it stopped for the exact time of her getting to the store, and then it started again. Then when she left, it stopped again. She was nearly across the mall parking lot where she had bought the things that she needed to buy when she heard a sound and she realized that was that wheelchair with that guy, and he was apparently wanting to talk to her because he was buzzing along, coming up to her. And so she stopped, turned around, and she goes, "Can I help you?" And he goes, "No, maybe I can help you." And she said, "Well," she said, "I gotta get back to work shortly, but I have a few minutes." And that was when another miracle occurred. This man said, "Well, you know, when this happened to me," he said, "I was very wealthy. So I put together a company to create that van back there and this wheelchair, which is very specific, very special, able to go over more terrains than most wheelchairs." And he said, "I also put together a initiative to get these wheelchairs to people that really require them." And she goes, "That's cool." And then she was realizing that he was talking to her and that meant something. And she goes, I got a few minutes before I have to be back at my job. Um, what are you saying?" She goes, "I'm going to be blunt. I've learned to be that way in this thing." And he goes, "Oh, that's good." He goes, "What I'm saying is I saw you and I saw you struggling. What happened?" And she said, "Stupid fluke. Uh, Probably a minute where I wasn't listening to God." And he goes, "Don't ever say that." She started to cry. That was a miracle in itself. She hadn't cried since the thing had happened. It all had been about utilitarian motion of getting things done, figuring things out. She didn't have anyone else. Family gone. Boyfriend wanted a working woman, gone. Church asking her what she had done wrong to get into that position. So church gone. Yeah, God had given her that little miracle, and that's what she called it. So I'll call it that. When she told me the story, she called it a miracle that the rain hadn't fallen. It would have been really hard if it had, because everything got messed up, immune system, everything from this silly little thing. And she never told me what the thing was, so that's why I don't know. And some people say, "Well, couldn't you ask God and take a look?" Nope. It's, privacy is privacy. Even God honors that. But, she was, you know, looking at the miracles. The things that she needed to complete her work were in, those shelves were usually empty. She considered that also a miracle. Now she was on her way back, and she had about another 30 minutes to get home. But looked like things were shifting for her in some way. She didn't know what. He said, I understand you got to get back to work, and we all have to work. He said, I'd like to get you a chair so you're not shaking. He said, whatever happened to you, you lost part of your mobility and you're up as well as you're down. She goes, yeah. She goes, just something. And he looked at her and his eyes locked right on her and he goes, and you're not an idiot. More tears. She certainly felt that way for what had happened, how it had happened, what had occurred, which wasn't talking about, didn't ever plan to. And there was a part of her that said, I don't want to say I'm charity case or something, but that chair looked awfully nice and she was awfully tired. And her getting home in time, not likely. Not likely they had the chair, it would probably have to be. And he said, come back to the van. And so she rolled back to the van. He said, let me drive you home. And she said, 100%, I'll let you do that. She rolled into the van and there was a box sitting there. And in the other seat was a technician. She could tell because that's what the sign on his shirt said, that he was a wheelchair technician. Mhm. So she arrived back. She only had two more tasks to do, and he said, go ahead and do those. When you're finished for the day, let me know. I'm just going to sit out here. And she's going, God's up to another miracle, it looks like. Really like that chair. That's what happened is she finished her two tasks and got it all done and she had her meeting and people were happy and it was Friday, so it was only a half day and it was done. She rolled out, didn't expect him to still be there. It'd been a couple hours, but there he was, sitting in his van, seeming quite comfortable. And he said, are you done for the day? And she goes, yep. And he goes, well, let's get that wheelchair out of here and down. And he said, I called for a couple other people because, you got to get it in the house, get it sorted, get it unboxed. It's yours. No catches, no things you have to do, no hoops you have to jump through. It's yours. And he said, yes, I do listen to God. And God said, this is for you. So she went, wow, chair. Not have to even push it anymore. She can still work out, keep her body as strong as she can. And he gave her the chair, and the technician helped her get into it. So a couple of other people that were kicking around with him all of a sudden, and it formed around her, and she was just really happy. She felt good. She could just push a button and go. And if she was really weak, she could still go. It felt sturdy. The wheels looked like they could do things. And he's sitting there. He goes, "So, can I get a picture?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." So I take a picture of her in the chair and she's smiling. And he goes, "Yeah, what do you do for a living?" And she goes, "Well, I do, virtual admin work for people. I'm personal assistant. Doesn't pay much, but it's something I can do from here. They never want me to come into the office because of, my issue, but I'm good at what I do. So your administrator, can be, was before all this happened. I see. He said, I have a question for you. And she goes, okay, you've been surprising me already. He goes, two things. He goes, now that you have that chair, what does that do for you? And she goes, well, she said, maybe I can get a better job. That would help. Everything's been expensive. Uh, and God has been miraculous in meeting needs and requirements. And been awesome. He goes, well, so maybe that will get you a new job. And he turned to her and he said, he said, I think we'll meet again. He said, here's my card. Have to go. We'll pick up another one of these and drop it off at somebody else's house that requires it. She goes, that's amazing. You know, if I ever get on my feet, I'll donate to your charity. And he goes, I accept those donations because it's returning. Not necessary, but it shows that the heart that God picked is correct. Of course, it's going to be, he said. Anyway, got to get going, and he rolled himself out down the thing, and off went his tech guy that had been sitting beside him gave her a card and said, "Any problems, let me know. I'll come over and I'll work on it, and we'll get it working so it works for you." And she was astounded. She now had a chair. Living in a ground floor apartment that was set up for that had cost a bit, but it was worth it. She thought about things. She rolled over and there was another message from the company that she had been working for and saying they needed her to be able to be in the office. They didn't mind a wheelchair, but they wanted her to be able to be mobile. So they were going to probably have to look for someone else, and they were sorry about that. And she texts back, I have a power chair now. I can move around. I can do things. I text back and said, well, I'll have a meeting and let you know. That was fine. She's living this life. She's just waiting. And on Monday, she gets well, we would prefer to have somebody able-bodied, and because we need people to go get things and stuff, and you don't fit that, so we will be letting you go. And she said, that's fine. Didn't know why it was fine. She didn't feel like anything, and she was certainly already just over the moon, and she'd, been buzzing around, and she actually went out and found a church and had a good church service. There were some people there that were actually seeming to be kind, and one even offered if she wanted to go to the park, yeah, the park, the big park, the one in the center of everything. She said, yep, I want you to take you there and give you a hot dog. Okay. So that's what this person did. They chatted and they talked, and she might have made a friend. But Monday came and her job was gone, and she's wondering how she's affording this little place that she has. Doesn't own it, but she got permission to change it, which makes it really good for people in wheelchairs. So the guy was all for it, but she had to pay for it, so she did. But now she doesn't have a job. And then she thought, well, I have to figure out some things. And as she was getting ready to apply, she heard in her mind, phone him. I don't know why I would phone him, but she goes, I'm going to listen. I'm going to obey. Phoning. She phones. He goes, oh, how are you doing? And she goes, oh, well, but I got fired. They don't want somebody that's disabled. They said they needed an able body because they need somebody to go fetch things. He goes, well, it's wrong. He said, but if you fight it, you don't go anywhere. She said, I'm not fighting it. I'm just going to find another job. But I felt God said, phone you. So here I am. I'm knowing what I'm doing. And he goes, wow. He said, I think you know why God asked you to phone. And he goes, this giving out wheelchairs is taking off a bit and getting to multiple cities and making it quite interesting to get them out there and be personal with each one, but I do wish to. But the company's doing great. A lot of people are buying the wheelchair when they realize that most of the profits are going back into giving wheelchairs to people that can't afford them. It's awesome. But I require a coordinator. You wouldn't happen to know one, would you? And she chuckled and she goes, like I said before, all this happened, whatever it is, that's what I was doing, basically. And he goes, wow. So that's my backhanded way of saying you're hired. I already had your interview. You're a good lady. I can tell you can do what I require you to do, and you can do it from your own house. It's not a problem. I just need somebody that can make all the pieces work. She goes, I knew that. He said, I have one more request. And she goes, okay. He goes, I have a young lady that just lived through a very bad motor accident. And she's kind of lonely. And your position won't start for a week because I got to get everything organized and sorted and get your room set up and make sure you have the right computer. Yes, that those things are happening. Get you fitted for a van, get you into lessons so you can drive it. Yes, that's happening. She was counting the miracles on her finger, and he said, but while you're waiting, if you don't mind, she has nobody, just like you did. Can you go up and visit her? Oh, yeah, no problem. Especially with this rig. He said, that's good. Can you get there? Oh, yeah. She goes, hospital isn't that far from where I live, if you remember. And he said, I didn't look. So she said, yep, I can do that. And so she went up and she arrived. And as she came into the door, she was there at the right moment. Her only relative, who happened to be an uncle, brother of the dad that had died, basically was telling her, "You're on your own now. And I was willing to back you because you had an athletic career, but now you don't." And parents dying suddenly like that. Well, I raised you. The world can figure it out from here. And he walked out. But she saw it as a miracle that she was right there because she walked in. That's what she said. And I said, of course you rolled in. She goes, yeah. But she said, I walked into this situation. I said, hello. And I said, the guy that's giving away wheelchairs said you required somebody to yak at. And by the sounds of what just happened there, might need to be yakking more than normal. And she goes, ah, that's just my uncle. He might cool down, but he's very upset that I got into a car accident. I don't know why. It wasn't my fault. And the person that's driving was my boyfriend, but he's gone. I know he wasn't high or anything, but the guy that hit us was. And she said, I'm just trying to figure it out. A lady that just got a wheelchair rolls over and said, well, let's pray. You think God's gonna make me fix this? Don't know. Mine happened 12 years ago. It's a story, she said. Maybe one day I'll tell it. So they had a word of prayer. The girl was feeling a little better. And what are you going to do? I'm going to sit here until closing hours and see if I can even sit past closing hours. Sit and chat with you and talk with you. And if you need a place to hang, well, my apartment is small. Two wheelchairs wheeling around, it'll be interesting. But totally, totally up to you, but you can come and, you know, the same service that gets me in and out of bed can get you in and out of bed, and we'll figure it out from there. And the young girl goes, well, it's gonna be a while before I need a place to stay, but yeah. Well, I know there's rehab and stuff, and I'll have to get you a chair, of course. And she goes, well, one arm moves, my eyelids blink. I can feel my left toe and my right shoulder. And I can feel when I smile. Huh? A lady talking about miracles goes, well, those are miracles. At least some things are still working. That means that there's intermittent connection, and who knows what can happen through therapy and time and love. And you got it in buckets here, lady. And she said, young lady, because like you're much younger than me. By the looks, who knows? And she juggled, you must be what, in your 20s? She goes, yeah. Huh. And I'm like just turning 16. Yep. So you're much younger than me. Ah, you're sarcastic. Sometimes, she said. But they did well together. Then she went up and talked whenever she could, helped her and sat there cheerleading as she went through physio. But to her word, she took this girl in and you know and helped her adjust because the other miracle is that she wanted somebody to pay it forward to help. That's what happened. So you may hear a part two of this story, very likely you will along the way, but we're going to leave it there. I know that's my favorite phrase, isn't it? Just leave it there. You're sitting there going, no, 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 no. I need more. I need more. I need more. Well, let me know. Give me some comments. Maybe we'll, next time we do Miracle Story next week, or two. I don't usually do Tuesdays, but might get talked into it. Who knows? Anyway, you require a Sunday blessing. So that's just big buckets of joy and big, huge space of peace. And the intuition, ingenuity, invention, insights, answers, wisdom, all of it, the whole bucket. whatever else that brush wants to paint that's in God's hand, according to his will and wish, and according to your will and wish, this can be. So, let's have a word of prayer. We come before you, Father, and this story, is it full of miracles? To you it is. To me it is. To that person it was. Do people call these miracles? I don't know. But everything happens for a reason. That I do know. Don't know how it works. But I ask you, as you work with these people, that you use that story as you wish. Take it deeper than I ever could. And I thank you for doing so. And I just thank you for pushing back the darkness. If this is their first time or the 100th time, that they would find a little deeper with you as they have a reprieve from the war that they walk in. Every single one of us do. And so I just say, give us grace and mercy, and courage and strength as we go. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. And we say thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude. Standing in awe and honor, respect. Allowing all glory to flow. Father, Spirit, Son. This is, and so this is. Amen. When you rest, rest well. When you wake, wake well. And know that your path is well led by God. Blessings.